planning consent dating back to 1957. The scheme was part of a post-war building initiative allowing developers to build without a full public consultation, leaving residents in the dark.
So you can see out of this window here how big the warehouse is and why we've nicknamed it the mega shed.
Retired policeman Paul Selby is greeted by the warehouse every time he opens his curtains.
I don't think you need to be a magician to work out that they've not taken any account of the impact that the thing's going to have on the local area. You can see it from, all over the place, and everybody is commenting that it's completely spoilt what was a rural village.
A spokesperson for South Gloucestershire Council said much of the new development at Sevenside is governed by planning permission granted in 1957. This permission gives wide-ranging powers for development with limited remaining control for the council to exercise. A government spokesperson said councils are ultimately responsible for reviewing old permissions if the development is no longer suitable and deciding whether action is necessary. But local MP Claire Young believes similar developments around the country means it is a matter for Parliament.
At the moment, the government appears to be saying, no, it's not really our problem. And I think it is. That's why I want to get a minister in front of me in the chamber so I can explain what I think the problem is and what could be done about it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning, 9:30 on Monday, the 24th of November, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, the Tory chairman, Kevin Hollinrake, has compared Reform UK to Nazis, likening Nigel Farage's golden Reform logo to Adolf Hitler's golden party badge. Well, Zia Youssef will be joining us next.
The Prime Minister, the Secretary of Work and Pensions, and this whole government are committed to reforming our welfare state.
2 days until the budget, and the Chancellor will unveil £15 billion of extra welfare spending funded by a tax rise on the middle classes.
Elsewhere, it's Judgment Day for the BBC as senior staff members face make-or-break questions from MPs about their edit of a Donald Trump speech.
Children as young as 10 being given puberty blockers on the NHS next year after a trial was granted ethical approval. How could they?
I think this is a very, very meaningful, I would say probably best meeting and day we've had so far in this entire process.
Overnight, the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio says that progress has been made to finalise a Ukraine peace deal as Europe invites Russia back onto the world stage.
And it's been revealed the 600 migrants being housed in an old army camp in East Sussex will be greeted with art classes, sports events and wellbeing sessions paid for by the taxpayer.
And the former Prime Minister Lord Cameron reveals he's beaten prostate cancer. He's now joined the call for a national screening programme. Andrew, I was just so appalled when I heard that this potential trial of puberty blockers on children is going to go ahead, and they're going to select over 200 children, starting from 8 years old, to have these injections to delay puberty to find out whether or not it's a good thing to do. I don't think we need science to tell us that.
Why would they do it? What's the raison d'etre? What's the point?
Well, I think...
And which children... What parents would let their children be used as these guinea pigs?
No, and they're saying that it will be open to children who show a persistent desire for hormone treatment. Well, my children show a persistent desire for chocolate. Doesn't mean it's good for them, does it?
And they're children, that's the whole point. And you thought that after the Cass review and all the stuff about the Tavistock Institute where they were... that all of that was in the past, but not.
Yeah. How can it be ethical to experiment on children? It just seems absolutely extraordinary.
And we've got two very significant guests.
We have. Helen Joyce, who, of course, has been a fantastic campaigner against trans ideology, and Rosie Duffield, very, very brave, former Labour, now independent MP, talking also about the campaign against men in women's prisons. Another, you would have thought, sensible policy.
Absolutely. But as ever, we'd like to know what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting gbnews.com/yoursay. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Katie Bowen.
Good morning. The headlines at 9:33. The government must change course and make hard choices at the budget on Wednesday. The boss of the UK's largest business group will warn today. Rain Newton-Smith says the Chancellor must avoid, quote, death by 1,000 taxes that could risk the UK getting locked in a stop-start economy. Business and Trade Secretary Peter Kyle spoke to GB News Breakfast.
I understand that there's been a lot of speculation in the lead up to this budget. The facts will come out on Wednesday. Let's wait for those facts to emerge.
Senior staff members at the BBC will face questions from MPs today on the corporation's editorial standards. BBC Chairman Samir Shah, board member Sir Robbie Gibb and former editorial advisor Michael Prescott will all face the Culture, Media and Sport Committee. Elsewhere, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he will continue to work with partners on compromises to the US peace deal in order to strengthen, not weaken Ukraine. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has hailed a, quote, tremendous amount of progress on Ukraine-Russia peace talks, but warned that negotiators would need more time. And former Prime Minister Lord Cameron has revealed that he has been treated for prostate cancer. David Cameron said he was urged to get a PSA test by his wife Samantha and was later diagnosed after an MRI scan and a biopsy. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, this row is going to gather momentum, in my view. It's been sparked online between the Tory chairman, Kevin Hollinrake, and Nigel Farage.
Yes, so the Reform Party leader posted a picture of a gold and black Reform logo with the caption, "Coming soon." Now, in response to this, Kevin Hollinrake, the Conservative Party chairman, posted a link to the Golden Party Badge,
which was a special award authorised by Hitler in 1933 to the first 100 Nazi party members. The connection, there is no connection whatsoever other than the warped mind of Kevin Hollinrake. I don't know what he's thinking of, because I think this badge was to do with a limited edition Reform UK football shirt.
Yes, it's actually just a logo on a football shirt that Reform are producing, black and gold football shirt. And it looks like Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform, has zoomed in on the logo on the football shirt and posted a picture on his X, formerly known as Twitter, timeline. But for some reason, Kevin Hollinrake has thought that this looks remarkably like the golden badge scheme that I think Hitler instituted in 1933 to celebrate Nazi party members. But of course, apart from the colour, I really can't see any similarity.
And it's also desperate. I've read a lot about the Nazi Party. I knew nothing about this, about gold badge. It's not as if if the badge on the football shirt resembled a swastika, you say fair comment.
Or if they were being given out as awards to members, you might have said, well, they probably should have looked it up first and just a comparison. But there doesn't seem to be any similarity.
Don't most football clubs have an emblem or something on their shirt?
But what, of course, Hollinrake is doing is playing into this perception that there is a link between fascism and right-wing populism, which, of course, is a link that's made all over the world. I think wrongly. I think it's a misunderstanding of history and what Nazis stood for. But nevertheless, Reform have faced allegations, haven't they, of letting people from the far right too close.
So has this started to get criticism? Hollinrake took it down from social media and then put it back up, linking to a Wikipedia page of the Nazi gold badge. How does that make it any different?
I don't know. How does it make it any better? And surely the first rule of politics is don't compare your opponents to Hitler, because well, first of all, it really undermines how terrible the Nazis were and, of course, the appalling crimes that they committed. There's no political party equivalent to that these days.
It's a terrible mistake, and if it had been some wayward backbencher, bad enough, but this is a member of the shadow cabinet who is the Conservative Party chairman, so is the voice of the average party member, and I think most party members, Miriam, would be horrified by this comparison.
Absolutely.
You as a former Tory MP, what would you say to the chairman if you were still an MP?
I mean, at the very least, apologise. I mean, maybe he was posting it as a bit of a joke, but it's not really.
No. Well, we're going to talk now to Zia Youssef, who's head of policy at Reform. Mr. Youssef, good morning.
Good morning.
It's just plain forward wrong and stupid what Kevin Holland-Rake has done.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And look, I'd also say, in addition to the comments you've just made, which I would agree with, the Tories have spent now the entire time since the general election saying that they've changed, and we should look past the fact that they basically ran an open borders experiment in this country for 14 years, look past the fact that they let in north of 100,000 illegal migrants, never left the ECHR, essentially governed like globalists. And now you have, as you said, the chairman of the party, not an indistinguished backbencher. The chairman of the party has just equated reform, and therefore people who support reform, the millions of people across the country, almost a third of the country, to Nazis. And that means that they've basically joined parties like the Green Party. Zach Polanski frequently refers to us as fascists. And one of the really dangerous things about this is that I speak to too many reform activists. I speak to too many reform candidates and volunteers who are threatened and indeed sometimes sadly attacked because they have been whipped up by this sort of appalling language. And it was not that long ago, of course, that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, in no small part because of extremely dangerous rhetoric. I mean, he was also labeled with these sort of slurs. It's deeply offensive, by the way, to the untold millions whose lives were destroyed by the Nazis. So I'm sorry, if you thought it was a joke, it's certainly not funny. And the fact that he took it down and then put it back up again, and it remains there, tells you everything you need to know about the fact that this is now clearly the official and endorsed view of the Tory party.
It's also politically illiterate, because if he really understood what the Nazis stood for, I mean, the Nazis scapegoated Jews, that's now a policy of the far left in this country, that the Nazis pretty much believed in open borders, they certainly didn't respect national sovereignty, again, not a policy of national conservatives like reform. Do you think our politicians actually need some training in history?
I think, Miriam, I think it's more just down to the fact that he's all out of ideas, and I think the Tory party are all out of ideas. I think these are the last acts of desperation. I wouldn't give them too much credit into thinking that this is some sort of, this was posted on a late Sunday evening. Who knows, maybe he'd had one too many beverages, for all we know. But again, the fact that he not only deleted it, he then put it back up there, and it remains there, and nobody else in the Conservative Party from the shadow cabinet or Kemi herself has come out to condemn this. And again, they're not just condemning Nigel or myself or any of the Reform MPs, they're condemning a third of the country. And you speak of politically illiterate. I can't imagine how the Tory party have looked at Keir Starmer's strategy of calling us racist and calling Nigel racist and seen that to be a successful strategy. The Tories are floundering, and the fact that they think the way to win back voters who have fled the Tory party to reform is by calling them Nazis is beyond me.
What's the least that Kevin Holland-Rake should do, so should he apologise? I mean, apart from take it down, but does he need to apologise to not just the leader of the party, but to all of Reform Party members?
I think if he had a shred of shame, that's exactly what he would do, yes.
And if he doesn't?
Well, that's a matter for the Tory party. I mean, we at Reform will continue doing what we're doing. And if it's now the Tories, Labour, the Lib Dems and the Greens, 4 of the top 5 parties in the country have now labelled Reform as either fascist or racist or Nazis. And I'm afraid what that's doing is spitting in the faces of people watching this programme. That's exactly what the Tory party are doing yet again, insulting their intelligence. And the answer is no, we're none of those things. We simply want secure borders. We want immigration law to be upheld. We want an end to mass immigration. We want people who are here in this country illegally to be deported. That isn't racist. It isn't Nazi. It isn't fascist. It's simply good common sense. And that's what Nigel provides.
No, I agree that nobody intelligent could possibly draw any link between Reform Party policies and Nazism. But nevertheless, there are people, particularly on the online right, who might call themselves neo-Nazis or be attracted to Nazi propaganda. We know that some of those people do try to infiltrate mainstream political parties on left and right. What is Reform doing to make sure that people like that are not able to join and not able to have any influence?
Well, look, as you've said, you get sometimes every political party will have a fringe, as it were. And, I was chairman when we set up a vetting process, which, while not perfect, no vetting process can be perfect, to be clear. I think it's done a pretty darned good job. We're very proud of fielding more candidates, of course, on May the 1st this year than any of the other parties. The first time, I think, in about a century that has happened. And again, I think it's unreasonable to try to besmirch, the millions of people in this country who, remember, Miriam, people voted for less immigration in time after time after time after time. The Brexit vote and referendum, 4 consecutive Tory manifestos. As you know, the Tories promised to bring net immigration down to the tens of thousands and left with that number touching 1 million. So, look, we can talk about fringe and far right all we want. The reality is that's a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of politics in this country, almost as to be basically irrelevant. And that's not obviously what reform is. And again, reform is now polling. Some polls put us at more than twice the support level of the Tories, which is why calling these people Nazis simply for saying that this should be a country that actually upholds immigration law and doesn't want to see the country face untrammeled mass immigration anymore is a really appalling thing to say.
You're going to speak later on today to the CBI conference, the Confederation of British Industry, Mr. Youssef. Just a few weeks ago, you junked a lot of your economic policies, such as taking everybody out of taxation until they earn £20,000. What is your message to the CBI today to try to show the business community that reform can be taken seriously with the economy?
Yeah, well, look, we will be, if the British public choose to elect a Reform majority and Nigel as our Prime Minister, we will be the most pro-business government of our lifetimes. And, most of the leadership at Reform have built successful careers in the private sector. We've built businesses. We know what that's like. And so my message is this. Look, the country is, of course, in a very difficult financial situation, in no small part because of 14 years of Tory mismanagement, and now Rachel Reeves pouring gasoline on that. There's almost £3 trillion of national debt, so we have to be realistic. But our priorities will be, number one, we've got to get energy costs down, and that will be the number one priority of a Reform Energy Secretary. It is to reduce energy costs and make energy as abundant and cheap in this country as possible. Number two, cut red tape and reduce the overburdensome regulation. Make the most of the freedoms that Brexit has actually given us. Unleash the power of and lean into our strengths like the financial services sector, new age manufacturing, to the degree anyone can manufacture anything in this country. I'm amazed any company manages to manufacture things given where energy prices are. And then, of course, make crystal clear that if you're a wealth creator, a job creator, you are welcome in the United Kingdom.
Zia Youssef, thank you very much for your time this morning. We appreciate you coming on the show. And we should say that we did reach out to the Conservative Party and Kevin Hollinray. We are yet to hear back.
Well, they haven't said anything, and they should.
Indeed.
It's not acceptable. I mean, they're a big party. You can't just bury your head in the sand. I mean, it's a mistake, and they should admit it, and it's an offensive mistake.
I think the reposting is what's so extraordinary.
If you got it wrong, we've all occasionally put something out that, oh, God, I didn't mean to say that. And you can take it down.
Delete. And then at least you show that you understand that you made a mistake. Yeah. Doubling down, I think, is what we've
The
got.
irony is, I think Kevin Hollinray is one of the more sure-footed of the Conservative.
Sensible, level-headed, normally.
Got that wrong.
Anyway, we shall see. We await a reasonable explanation.
Now, still to come?
Farmers from across the country will be protesting ahead of the budget this week, and we'll be checking in with some of them soon.
But up next, find out why thousands of company directors have already fled Britain in the last year, including one or two who gave vast amounts of money to the Labour Party, and why we think thousands more could be following them.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of our top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
The unsettled weather continues across the central Mediterranean. Heavy rain and thunderstorms expected here. Some areas could even see a month's worth of rainfall in just a few days. Mostly dry and settled across Madeira, but many areas of northern Europe are going to see a very unsettled day on Monday. The poorest of conditions likely across Italy and around the Adriatic coastline. Some heavy showers and thunderstorms here. Still a mix of sunshine and showers into next week, with the best of the temperatures across Tenerife.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain's economy is at a crossroads.
And this budget day, every decision counts.
From taxes and rent to the cost of living.
Whatever the outcome, the GBNews family will be there.
With expert analysis breaking down what it means for you.
Budget day, all day Wednesday.
Only here
on the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Feet earlier this year as part of the first group to trek the same route as Lawrence of Arabia.
A former Special Forces officer, Howard Leedham, followed in Lawrence's footsteps across Saudi Arabia and Jordan in a 25-day journey. And I'm very happy to say he joins us now. Howard, thank you very much for coming to see us.
Thank you for having me on.
Now, talk us about what you're putting on, having completed that remarkable trek.
Well, we did the trek in January and February, and I was odd enough to lead a team of Special Forces Club members to do the entire route that Lawrence did in 1917. 685 miles, 1,100 kilometres, took us 25 days. We started off with 5 riders, 4 riders made it. And the last 9 days we spent in Jordan. And one of the things that in Saudi, we would basically follow Lawrence's route from water to water and go to the same wells that he had gone, because that's what they had to do, as they worked their way around the Nefed desert. And then, obviously, when they came in towards Aqaba, because the guns in Aqaba all faced towards the sea, yeah. so they had to cross the uncrossable desert to get into the back of Aqaba. And when you come into Jordan, what strikes you is, because of the topography and because of the way that the history is so well recorded in that area, is that you can basically follow almost the precise route that he followed, and basically sleep in the same places that he slept, so you can really feel what they were doing and how they tactically moved down in order to take the port of Aqaba.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 9 minutes to 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, just days away now, and the latest in the budget that has got more leaks in it than a colander that you strain your sprouts in. She's going to give away £15 billion in benefits. This is the Chancellor who earlier this year was trying to cut the benefits bill by £5 billion.
Definitely a U-turn. Well, it looks like it will be middle-income earners who will be saddled with tax hikes in order to fund this move.
Let's talk to are we talking to Julian Jessup? I think we are, aren't we?
We are.
Julian Jessup, who is our favourite independent economist. Julian, I have never, and you've done as many budgets as I have, known so many leaks. Deliberate kite flying by the Chancellor, and then she withdraws it, and then another leak, and then another leak. And at the weekend, she was complaining about all the mansplaining. She gave an interview to the Times at the weekend. For God's sake, get a grip.
I entirely agree. It's the most chaotic budget I can remember, and it hasn't even been delivered yet. So I suspect on Wednesday we'll get a dog's breakfast of measures, spending increases, tax increases, which is highly unlikely to unravel in the days that follow, both as sort of experts, look at each individual measure and say this doesn't actually add up. But also, I'm not sure the markets will like this. The markets like things that are clean and simple and increase credibility. I think there's a serious danger that what little credibility she still has will be shot to pieces when she finishes speaking.
She's going to definitely withdraw, even though she said she wouldn't last year in the budget. Freeze thresholds again. These were frozen by the Tories until 2028, so more people will be taken into the top rate of tax, 40%, nurses and teachers. Julian, that is an income tax rise, even though she'll pretend it isn't, but that is a straightforward rise in income tax.
Well, I only have to quote Rachel Reeves herself. In her October budget speech last year, she ruled this option out, saying it would be a tax increase on working people. So you have to sort of ask, what has changed since then? And of course, one thing is that she's decided to spend an awful lot more money particularly on the welfare bill, and everybody's going to have to pick up the cost of that.
Now, we learned today that 6,100 UK directors, company directors, have left the country in the last 12 months, which is more than 40% increase on the 12 months before. Why do you think business owners specifically are fleeing the UK tax regime?
Well, you should say it's a really interesting number, because we already knew lots of people were leaving the country, but we weren't sure who they were and why. So going into this sort of level of detail is really helpful. And if we look at where people are leaving to, it's typically countries like the UAE or Dubai, which of course have relatively low tax rates, relatively business-friendly systems. And I think that's the key to this. People have been spooked by what's actually been happening over a number of years in this country, the tax system getting more complicated and less business-friendly. But of course, that's accelerated under Labour. So business taxes are going up, taxes on wealth are going up in one form or another. And on top of that, you've got all the uncertainty.
Julian, I'm
as well.
so sorry, we are going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid, but thank you so much for your time this morning.
We didn't have enough time with him, but find out why children as young as 10 will be given puberty blockers in the NHS next year. But first, the weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, there are showers in the forecast today, sunnier spells developing in the west and more so tomorrow, otherwise still feeling chilly in the winds. So the strongest winds really confined to the southwest of England with gales, but they'll generally start easing. Otherwise, some bright skies developing, especially across Northern Ireland, Scotland, later into Wales and the southwest of England. But most of the showers really confined to eastern areas, so into eastern Scotland, northeast England. Again, some of these wintry over the hills. Could be some glimmers of sunshine across the southeast, but for most of us, it's a chillier day, especially when exposed to the northerly wind, but feeling a bit more pleasant across Northern Ireland. So as we go through this evening, then temperatures will quickly fall away, especially under the clear skies across western Scotland. Still a focus for showers along the coasts. Across Northern Ireland, a few showers coming down in that northerly wind, and likewise across northern England, perhaps even some of them falling a little bit wintry. Otherwise, for England and Wales, it's going to be a mixture of some clear skies, but also some showers, especially focused across Pembrokeshire and then running down into Devon and Cornwall. So as we go overnight into the start of Tuesday morning, actually a lot of those showers across the west do start fading away. It will be turning colder, especially across northern areas where we'll see a touch of frost to start Tuesday morning. Otherwise, still a focus for the showers across eastern areas. So a colder start to Tuesday morning with some icy stretches possible and a frost in places. Otherwise, through Tuesday, most of us should see a largely dry day with more in the way of sunshine. There'll still be a focus for those showers running down along eastern coast, so into northeastern England, and a few showers across the southwest. But through the day, they'll start fading away. So hopefully feeling a little bit more pleasant with lighter winds and more in the way of sunshine on Tuesday.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for our more than 2 million YouTube subscribers and more than 2 billion views. That is Britain watching, sharing and making its voice heard louder than ever before.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A38 northbound from Burton-upon-Trent South to junction A5132 is congested. In Surrey, an incident on the M25 clockwise between junction 9 and 10 has closed one lane. The A90 at Ellen is restricted due to a collision. On the A55 Britannia Bridge, high winds affect passage. In Northamptonshire, one lane on the A45 westbound is closed due to a collision. In Warrington, 2 lanes of the M6 northbound are closed after an overturned vehicle. And on the trains, cross-country services face disruptions between Darlington and Newcastle. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dawdley, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Monday the 24th of November. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
The Tory chairman Kevin Hollinrake has stirred up a hornet's nest by comparing Reform UK to Nazis. He's likened Nigel Farage's Golden Reform logo to Adolf Hitler's Golden Party badge. Reform's head of policy, Zia Yusuf, spoke to us just a few moments ago.
He thought it was a joke, it's certainly not funny, and the fact that he took it down and then put it back up again and it remains there tells you everything you need to know about the fact that this is now clearly the official and endorsed view of the Tory party.
The Prime Minister, the Secretary of Work and Pensions, and this whole government are committed to reforming our welfare state.
Well, there are just 2 days to go until that long-awaited budget, and the Chancellor is set to unveil £15 billion of extra welfare spending funded by a tax raise on the middle classes.
Judgment day for the BBC. Senior board members facing make-or-break questions from MPs about their edit of that Donald Trump speech.
I think this is a very, very meaningful, I would say, probably best meeting and day we've had so far in this entire process.
Overnight, the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio says that progress has been made to finalise a Ukraine peace deal as Europe invites Russia back onto the world stage.
I hope you're as outraged as Miriam and I are. Children as young as 10 to be given puberty blockers on the NHS next year after a trial was granted ethical approval. They're under 10.
Elsewhere, farmers in Lincolnshire join a nationwide tractor protest to block UK ports in a fight against inheritance tax reforms this morning.
It's the National Day of Unity for farmers up and down the country, protesting against inheritance tax changes and also looking ahead to the budget on Wednesday. We'll be joining some farmers from Lincolnshire in their tractors on the convoy later on.
So we've got some breaking news. The Conservative Party has finally, we were in touch with them some hours ago, responded to the chairman of the Tory party, Kevin Hollinrake, comparing a logo on a Reform football shirt to the Nazi party. Zia Yusuf came on the programme, who's their head of policy, to deplore what they've done. So we'll bring that response shortly. I hope it's an apology.
I would hope so. I mean, it is quite extraordinary. Some of our viewers will have seen that Reform, in fact, it was Zia Yusuf, put out a video at the weekend criticising Zach Polanski, the Green Party leader. And one of the criticisms was that every time they say he doesn't agree with people, he calls them fascist. And they had this montage of Zach Polanski calling different people fascists. Well, you would have hoped the Conservative Party would have learned from that actually it's not good politics to just compare people to Nazis. Obviously indescribably evil, and no political party in the UK comes anywhere close to what they've stood for.
The most evil sect of the last 150 years, by a mile, surely.
Well, I think communists killed more, but equally evil.
But put the Holocaust, the gas chamber, just so far. As ever, we'd like to know what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Katie Bowen.
Miriam, Andrew, thank you and good morning. The headlines at 3 minutes past 10. The government must change course and make hard choices at the budget on Wednesday. The boss of the UK's largest business group will warn today. CBI boss Rain Newton-Smith says the Chancellor must avoid, quote, death by 1,000 taxes that could risk the UK getting locked into a stop-start economy. Speculation continues to grow on how the Chancellor will handle the welfare system in her budget. Reports today suggesting that she will unveil £15 billion of extra benefit spending, alongside scrapping the two-child benefit cap. Business and Trade Secretary Peter Kyle spoke to GB News Breakfast.
This will be a budget where we will get a grip on the cost of living challenges, because that is what affecting people up and down the country. We'll protect the NHS, and we will make sure that we start to tackle the long-term debt challenges that we inherited from the previous government. We will also lay the foundations for growth. The only way that our country can move forward, the only way we get real fairness for working people and pensioners right across the country, is to get growth into our economy, and that is what I, as Business Secretary, am doubling down on.
While Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffith says there is a huge gulf between parties and their economic policies.
It's becoming very clear now. We've got this huge gulf between those that work hard, those that try and save for their retirement, pensioners, small businesses, farmers, people who get up and go to work early every day, and the people that this Labour government seems to want to support, which is the public sector and those on welfare.
Elsewhere, senior staff members at the BBC will face questions from MPs later today on the corporation's editorial standards. BBC Chairman Samir Shah, board member Sir Robbie Gibb and former editorial advisor Michael Prescott will all face the Culture, Media and Sport Committee. The committee wrote to the BBC to ask about what action is being taken after a report by Mr Prescott raised concerns that a Panorama episode edited a speech made by President Donald Trump on the Capitol Hill riots in 2021. Director General Tim Davie and News Chief Deborah Turness resigned in the fallout from the report becoming public, while Mr Shah apologised on behalf of the BBC over an error of judgment in the edit. President Trump has said that he will sue the corporation, while US regulator the Federal Communications Commission launched an investigation. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he'll continue to work with its partners on compromises to the US peace deal in order to strengthen, not to weaken, Ukraine. His comments come as US Secretary of State Marco Rubio hailed, quote, a tremendous amount of progress on Ukraine-Russia peace talks, but warned that negotiators would need more time as delegations met in Geneva yesterday. The talks come as Russia's defence ministry said that air defence systems had intercepted and destroyed 93 Ukrainian drones overnight. A woman who died in Wiltshire has been described by colleagues as an incredible and kind person. 55-year-old Sarah Forrester, who works for mental health charity the Kelly Foundation, was found dead at her home in Swindon on Friday evening. A 13-year-old girl was arrested on suspicion of murder but has since been released on police bail. Former Prime Minister Lord Cameron has revealed that he's been treated for prostate cancer. David Cameron said he was urged to get a PSA test by his wife Samantha and was later diagnosed after an MRI scan and a biopsy. After being successfully treated, the former Prime Minister says he now wants to use his position to call for screenings to be offered to high-risk men. And the Princess of Wales has called for the stigma faced by those with addictions to come to an end and society to show compassion and love to those dependent on drugs, alcohol or gambling. In a message to mark Addiction Awareness Week, the Princess said that society's experience of addiction was shaped by fear, shame and judgment, and urged people to have open conversations and bring the issue out of the shadows. Princess Catherine is patron of the Forward Trust, a charity supporting recovering addicts that's behind the week-long campaign. Those are your latest GB News headlines. More from me in half an hour.
Hello, welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
So, in response to that ongoing row, which we talked about earlier between Kevin Hollinrake, who's the Tory party chairman, and Reform UK, if you remember, Reform have brought out a football shirt with a badge on it, which is gold-coloured, and the Tory chairman, Kevin Hollinrake, in his wisdom, compared it to the badge, gold badge, that the first 100,000 members of the Nazis got, who joined the Nazi Party in 1936. Astonishing comparison, deeply offensive. This is the Tory response. Miriam.
Well, a Tory spokesman said that Reform are more interested in tweets than the shame of their leader in Wales being jailed for 10 years for being Putin's Scrooge, or their plan to scrap the two-child benefit cap costing taxpayers more and more. Reform need to get off social media and explain why they're so cosy with Russia and want more welfare.
So that's called doubling down.
Indeed. Isn't the problem that Kevin Hollinrake was on social media?
He was on social media, and that's why he made that mistake. I've got a golden rule about social media: never ever put anything on social media if you've even had a wine gum.
A wine
a
gum.
sniff of a wine gum. I'm not saying Kevin Hollinrake had had a drink, but I don't know what time it went out, and I'm certainly not suggesting that, but that is a golden rule.
You can't imagine it was done with any thought for political strategy, because it looks silly, it looks...
It suggests also that the people who support Reform, and they support Reform in their millions, are of a similar bent.
Exactly. And we've been going through our emails, gbnews.com/you'll say, and let's just say the comments are not balanced. Nobody particularly supports the Conservative position on this. And Sharon says, I'm sick of Labour and the Conservatives putting Reform down. They're the only party that will turn our country around and stop the boats. Peter says, I'm disgusted by Hollinrake. It is ignorant and pathetic, desperate playground politics. Paula says, my 78-year-old mum and I are members of Reform. We certainly don't appreciate being called Nazis.
Well, that's the point, you see. If you're saying Reform are a Nazi party or support the Nazis, you're saying all the people. It's just a no-brainer. And millions of people voted for Reform at the last election, and millions more will. There was a poll at the weekend, Miriam, I don't know if you saw it. If there was a general election this week, now I don't buy it because there's 3.5 years to go, there would be not 120 Conservative MPs as we have now, an all-time low, 14. Only 2 members of the Shadow Cabinet would survive. One would be Kemi, Badenoch, and one would be Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary. Kevin Hollinrake, by the way, who's caused this row, would be blown away.
Yes, the majority. Well, it seems like when you are on less than 20% in the polls, the first past the post system works against you because your votes spread too evenly. So in no one constituency do you get the majority of the votes, which is actually what happened to Reform, of course, at the last election. I think they won 14% of the vote, but only 5 seats.
Yeah, they used to be against first past the post, but now they're so comfortably ahead, they don't appear to be talking very much about voting Reform.
Well,
some
people thought that the Labour Party would make some sort of electoral change if they only won by a few seats, but they got such an enormous majority that, again, it's not in their interest.
And now they might be thinking perhaps they should have. Now,
well, indeed.
There is a brand new way to take part in the conversation. You can become a friend of GB News for free. Take a look.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
Now, elsewhere, Russia could be invited back into the G8 under a new European peace plan.
This counter-proposal is being touted as an alternative to President Trump's 28-point plan, which most people say is heavily favouring Moscow.
Well, let's get the details on that with the chief foreign affairs commentator of the Daily Telegraph, David Blair. David, good morning. Welcome back to the programme. What does Putin want? Would he be satisfied with this chunk of Ukraine that the US seemed to be offering him? Would that be enough?
Well, the current peace plan, the European peace plan that you mentioned, allows him to keep what he's already got, but no more. Whereas the peace plan proposed by the Americans last week would have given him 2,500 extra square miles that Ukraine currently holds. So there's a big difference between the two plans. And the European one is a lot better than the American one from Ukraine's perspective.
But do the Europeans actually have any credibility left in this? They've set out a list of demands that they think would be a fair settlement, but they're not willing to back it up with arms, men or machines. So why would the Russians take any notice?
Well, Europe is the biggest supplier of arms to Ukraine, and Europe is the biggest supplier of money to Ukraine. And a number of European countries, including Britain, have already committed to deploying thousands of troops in Ukraine after any peace agreement. So absolutely, Europe is enormously influential here. And what's happening now is that the Americans are going back to the drawing board on their 28-point peace plan that they put forward last week, and they're trying to merge it with the European offer. And if they can do that, if Europe, America and Ukraine can all agree for the first time on their vision of how this conflict might end, on their shared objectives for this crisis, then that would be an enormous step forward. And you heard Marco Rubio earlier saying that they're pretty close to that goal. So overall, the developments over the weekend have been pretty positive.
How does giving Russia a seat on the G8, which would just be a bauble as far as I could see for Putin, work when so many countries have an international arrest warrant on the head of Vladimir Putin?
Well, exactly, Andrew. I don't see how it can work because 4 members of the G7, as it is now, are legally obliged to arrest Vladimir Putin pursuant to the warrant issued by the International Criminal Court for war crimes. So I don't quite see how it would work. You know, would they invite him to a G7, G8 summit in Paris and then arrest him on arrival? And it's not just that. The G7 has got a whole raft of sanctions against Russia. So would Russia join an international club which is trying to cripple its economy? It seems very strange. Presumably those sanctions would have to be lifted first. But the European plan is very cautious about lifting sanctions on Russia. It just says that that would happen stage by stage and on a case-by-case basis. So I think we're a very long way from Russia being welcomed back to the G8.
And in the Europe plan, who is the driving force in that? Is it Macron? Or can Keir Starmer claim a lot of credit for it?
Yes, it's been put together by Britain, France and Germany.
Right.
And their national security advisors met Rubio in Geneva yesterday. And that's where they're trying to to harmonise the European proposal with the American one. And the Ukrainians are there too, of course. Zelensky's representative is there as well.
Now, David, there's been a lot of talk about a peace needs to be lasting, but also just, and this sense that if it seems incredibly unfair to Ukrainians, whatever is finally agreed, it will breed resentment, a little bit like after the Treaty of Versailles, which was seen as so unfair to Germany, bred a lot of resentment between the wars. How likely do you think we are to get something that most Ukrainians see as just or fair?
That's the crucial question. And I think the test will be, first of all, does Ukraine get the security guarantee that they need to make sure that Russia never invades them again? And that depends on whether they get a proper NATO-style Article 5 guarantee, is what it's called, from the United States. Now, exactly that is in the European proposal. Point 10 says, and I quote, the US guarantee that mirrors Article 5. If they get that, then the Ukrainians can afford to compromise on other issues. So I think the key question to look out for is, if and when the Americans and the Europeans agree on their shared peace plan, does that commitment to give Ukraine an Article 5 security guarantee still survive?
Can I ask as well, deep down, David, does Vladimir Putin want this settled, because what he really wants, we know, is to restore the old Soviet Union, pie in the sky, I hope, but he wants to get the Russian tanks rolling into Kiev.
Well, you're absolutely right. And I think even if the Americans, the Europeans and Ukraine can come together on their vision of peace, of course, that doesn't end the war until Russia agrees as well. And for Putin to agree is highly unlikely, particularly if the peace proposal would include an Article 5 security guarantee for Ukraine, precisely because if that was there, then he would find it very difficult to come back for more and rebuild the Russian Empire as he's seeking to do.
David Blair, yes, thank you so much again for your insight this morning. Really appreciate your time. David Blair, The Telegraph.
Thank you.
He is a superb commentator.
He really is. He knows his stuff
affairs.
into that. I used to work with him at The Telegraph, and when he talked about foreign, we just used to sit there and listen to him in silence.
I think it's because all these issues are interconnected, aren't they? And so to have this broad understanding of how they all work together, it's incredibly important.
What I'd really like to know is what it was really like working as Boris Johnson's speechwriter. That must have been hell on
I wonder if he'd
earth.
come in for an interview on that.
Boris Johnson, managing, trying to get him to sit down and concentrate on anything, let alone a speech on foreign policy.
Absolutely. Well, we'd like his insight on that as well. We're still listening, David.
Now, the Business Secretary, Peter Kyle, is going to speak to the CBI conference in Westminster, talking about growth. He's speaking now, in fact, and he's telling the CBI that the economy is turning the corner. We'll bring you any of the highlights. I think the CBI will know that, bearing in mind they are running the business side of the economy, that they haven't turned no corner.
No, I think they're quite worried about the upcoming budget.
They've gone into a cul-de-sac. They've got to use motoring analogies.
And before the election, of course, Labour did a lot to try and get the CBI and business leaders on side, saying, you know, we're not socialists anymore, we're pro-business.
They had that letter. Was it 121 or 141 businessmen and women signed the letter saying why they welcomed a Labour government, including Jim Ratcliffe, who owns Manchester United, just closed down his Grangemouth, closing down his Grangemouth refinery as a result of this Labour government. I think the Eye, a few weeks ago, approached all of the authors of the letter. Only 21 said they would still support Labour. Yeah.
Gosh,
you see, those letters they all look very good at the time. Yeah. But be careful what you wish for, because people like me and you, we're going to go, oh, wasn't there a letter? Let's see if they still feel the same.
Well, lots of governments seem to make this mistake. They think that if they can tax business a bit more, it will give ordinary voters an easier time. But, of course, it's business that employs people. If you tax business more, they pass that on in either lower wages or...
I know. And the rise on employers' national insurance was directly passed on to the consumer, all of us, and it's cost 90,000 jobs in the hospitality industry.
That's right.
Minimum.
And a disproportionate effect on low-wage growth or low-wage employment, because they didn't just increase the percentage of the tax, they brought the threshold so much lower, so that even people in very part-time, low-wage jobs were caught.
If you're running a small plumbing business or joinery business, you were whacked by that budget. But remember, they said that it was not a tax on working people, because this Labour government doesn't seem to think if you employ people, you're a worker. You are.
Well, we'll bring you the highlights of that speech later on.
There probably won't be very many.
You never know. Might be some surprise announcements. Well, there's only a few weeks left until Christmas. Time is running out for you to enjoy it all on us. £40,000 in tax-free cash, £1,000 to spend in your favourite supermarket, and a fantastically festive GB News goodie bag could be yours.
Best news is you get it all in time for the big day. So here's how you do it.
There's just 31 days until Christmas, and it's the final week to see how you can enjoy it on us. That's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 fantastic. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family, the tree and decorations. £1,000 in vouchers to buy a slap-up Christmas lunch at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. Plus, we're going to get it all to you in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, do you fancy some art classes and well-being sessions? It's not Andrew's festive getaway. Apparently, that's the treatment you'll get if you're one of the migrants being housed at an old army camp in East Sussex.
Couldn't make it up, could you? Blimey now. We'll be going through that and more with the former MEP Annunziata Rees-Mogg and former Labour advisor Matthew Talbot. Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breast cancer is the most common cancer in the UK, and over a lifetime, 1 in 8 women will develop breast cancer. It's mostly affecting women over 50. As you mentioned before, it does affect a small proportion of men, less than 1%, but still there is a potential risk. The good news is, if caught early, survival is excellent due to improved treatments and new drugs. So 99% of women and men survive for more than 5 years if caught early. And overall, the breast cancer survival rate is about 85%, which is fantastic. It's important to know that you have to check. Women have to learn to check their breasts. So if you notice anything different, dimpling, change in shape, a lump, go and get it checked out. Even though survival rates are much improved, we do have less survival here compared to other countries. So, for example, in America, 90% of women will survive over 10 years if they're with breast cancer. So it is important to get checked out just as soon as you notice any changes whatsoever.
Why is there that difference, Lucy, between, say, us and America, for example?
Well, the UK lags behind generally in cancer survival, 10 to 25 years, they estimate, over a range of cancers. That includes prostate, ovarian, lung, breast and bowel cancer. And there could be a number of reasons, but I think part of the problem, the NHS is great when you get to the front of the queue, isn't it? But it's actually getting there.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's 10:26. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
There they are, Annunziata Rees-Mogg and Matthew Talbot. Annunziata, you once stood for the Brexit Party. Nigel Farage was your party leader.
Yes.
How do you think he's reacting to this slur from Kevin Holland, the Tory chairman?
I think it's just absolutely extraordinary. I tweeted last night, as soon as I saw it, that I think it's genuinely abhorrent that Kevin Holland seems to be implying that by having a badge on a shirt...
A football shirt, for fuck's sake.
It just happens to be a gold badge. I mean, I've got gold earrings on, and what does that say? Exactly.
Guilty.
It is such a stretch to get anywhere near the Nazis, and as we all know, as soon as you invoke the Nazis, you've lost the argument.
You really have. And I had to go and then look up the blimmin' badge, because it meant nothing to me, this badge, for the first time.
No.
And Matthew, you read books about history for years. Did you know anything about this badge?
I didn't know about the badge. I had to do the same as you.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I mean, I did, because politics is the way it is, I laughed last night and just turned Twitter off. I just thought, you know what is he doing? I'm very surprised they've doubled down and not just gone, blame the intern, really sorry, this is, really silly. If this is the route they wish to go, I don't think it ends well. And it's the same... Peter Kyle did it with the Jimmy Savile comments. You allow reform...
Remind us what he said.
Well, he said because Nigel Farage was against the Online Safety Act, he would allow people like Jimmy Savile to sort of do whatever he wished. He's in support of that sort of stuff. And I just think you actually allow Reform, Nigel Farage, whoever it may be, the moral high ground and say this is ridiculous.
It's a gift.
It is.
It is.
It will infuriate people who vote Reform.
Not just people who vote Reform. I have got friends who are Conservative Party members who've been on a pretty close to, am I going to stay, am I going to go? And this has tipped them over the edge. They are actually leaving the party because tarnishing Reform as Nazis is saying that our friends are Nazis, that 33% of the British population are Nazis. It is so clearly wrong in every way.
It seems stupid and ignorant, but do you think it's dangerous? We had Zia Yusuf coming on the programme earlier. He was saying that likening people to Nazis is actually inciting violence against them, or could be perceived to be doing so.
He mentioned Charlie Kirk, and that was clearly a horrific incident. And many people after the event did say that by normalising calling people extremists, dangerous Nazis, comparing them to Hitler, you do make people think it's acceptable to take action against them. And I think there is a risk of that. And it's also just so patently not true that why resort to playground attacks that bear no comparison to reality?
Think, Matthew, if it had been a 23-year-old activist intern who'd had a few beers and thought it was funny, I mean, not acceptable, but put it down to just that. But this man is 62 years old. He's been an MP for a very long time. He's the leader of the Tory party and party machine, party activist. He's not just any old MP.
I think it also makes things very awkward. I get that there is a jostle for centre-right voters from the Conservatives and Reform at the moment. I still think at the moment the most likely outcome of the next election is a hung parliament. And are the Tories going to sort of potentially be the third, fourth party and irrelevant, or are they going to do a deal? They're almost certainly going to do a deal. Well, quiet, so what does that make them? I think it's very silly, very short-sighted and short-termist, really. That's where I'd put it.
He should know better. I'm disappointed in him, actually, because I think in a party which has got very few MPs and very few, he's what I would have called one of the grown-ups.
Well, and it really, as Matthew said, it avoids the big picture. And what we need to do is defeat the left, get us out of this economic hole, sort the country out, sort immigration out. And the right needs to be united in those aims, not fighting in this way, not throwing meaningless attacks.
Let's very briefly move on to a different story. In the Times, school starters can't speak but can swipe. Matthew, what does this tell us about the next generation?
You know, all it does is reiterate my view that my children, when they turn up, will not have a smartphone. I think they're so damaging to adults. Why would you give that into the hands of a child? The thing that I thought was more shocking past the headlines is, in some instances, a primary school boy wrote a note to his teacher saying he liked her breast and asking if she wanted to have sex with him in the playground. This is a primary school under the age of 10. Well, primary school finishes at 10.
Good God.
This is the sort of stuff that they're clearly being exposed to. Lots of instances. And actually, I felt sorry for one of the head teachers who said, I think there's definitely an onus on parents. Parents have got to have the tools. If you're going to give that phone to the child, you've got to be able to decide.
And that's where that child has got. Who wrote that stuff? His head has been filled with this filth on his phone,
unfortunately,
or his gadget.
The deputy head of the school said the problem is the parents aren't always quite prepared, because we have many parents who don't believe COVID was real. So therefore, it's almost like the blind leading the blind.
But
on
as
this
a parent, even if you are very strict, you cannot stop other children in the playground from showing your children these things?
No, but you can look after your own children, and you can make sure you know what they are seeing, what they are doing. And one example, a friend of mine in Lincolnshire was teacher training and had a placement in a primary school amongst the 4-year-olds in reception. And one of them she thought was American, and he would talk about the garbage in an American accent and so on and so forth. And he wasn't. He'd never spoken to British people. He just watched television. But that's the parents' responsibility.
Yeah, very interesting.
Well,
on that point,
plenty of debate on that, I think.
Yeah, much more. from you two. No, we're going to first get our 60-second news update with Katie Bone.
Good morning. The headlines at 10:32. The government must change course and make hard choices at the budget on Wednesday. The boss of the UK's largest business group has warned today. Ray Newton-Smith says the Chancellor must avoid, quote, death by 1,000 taxes that could risk the UK getting locked in a stop-start economy. Business and Trade Secretary Peter Kyle spoke to GB News Breakfast.
I understand that there's been a lot of speculation in the lead up to this budget. The facts will come out on Wednesday. Let's wait for those facts to emerge.
Senior staff members at the BBC will face questions from MPs later today on the corporation's editorial standards. BBC Chairman Samir Shah, board member Sir Robbie Gibb and former editorial advisor Michael Prescott will all face the Culture, Media and Sport Committee. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he'll continue to work with partners on compromises to the US peace deal in order to strengthen, not weaken, Ukraine. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has hailed a, quote, tremendous amount of progress on Ukraine-Russia peace talks, but warned that negotiators would need more time. And former Prime Minister Lord Cameron has revealed that he has been treated for prostate cancer. David Cameron said he was urged to get a PSA test by his wife Samantha and was later diagnosed after an MRI scan and a biopsy. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Coming up next, children as young as 10 are going to be given puberty blockers. We'll have all the details. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to a GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, there are showers in the forecast today, sunnier spells developing in the west and more so tomorrow, otherwise still feeling chilly in the winds. So the strongest winds really confined to the southwest of England with gales, but they'll generally start easing. Otherwise, some brighter skies developing, especially across Northern Ireland, Scotland, later into Wales and the southwest of England. But most of the showers really confined to eastern areas, so into eastern Scotland, northeast England. Again, some of these wintry over the hills. Could be some glimmers of sunshine across the southeast, but for most of us, it's a chillier day, especially when exposed to the northerly wind, but feeling a bit more pleasant across Northern Ireland. So as we go through this evening then, temperatures will quickly fall away, especially under the clear skies across western Scotland. Still a focus for showers along the coasts. Across Northern Ireland, a few showers coming down in that northerly wind, and likewise across northern England, perhaps even some of them falling a little bit wintry. Otherwise for England and Wales, it's going to be a mixture of some clear skies, but also some showers, especially focused across Pembrokeshire and then running down into Devon and Cornwall. So as we go overnight into the start of Tuesday morning, actually a lot of those showers across the west do start fading away. It will be turning colder, especially across northern areas where we'll see a touch of frost to start Tuesday morning. Otherwise, still a focus for the showers across eastern areas. So a colder start to Tuesday morning with some icy stretches possible and a frost in places. Otherwise, through Tuesday, most of us should see a largely dry day with more in the way of sunshine. There'll still be a focus for those showers running down along eastern coast, so into northeastern England, and a few showers across the southwest. But through the day, they'll start fading away. So hopefully feeling a little bit more pleasant with lighter winds and more in the way of sunshine on Tuesday.
Thank you, Britain, for sharing over 5 million comments on your say. Because when you talk, we listen.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. For those travelling southbound on the A90, there is a closure near Ellen due to a traffic incident. Additionally, high winds have caused issues on the A55 Britannia Bridge, which remain in place until further notice. Motorists on the M6 northbound between junction 21 and 21A are experiencing delays due to an overturned vehicle, impacting journey times by 30 minutes. On the trains, cross-country services face disruption between Darlington and Newcastle, and Elizabeth Line services are affected between Whitechapel and Stratford in London. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 23 minutes to 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Now, I've got to say I'm struggling with this because a major new clinical trial will, for the first time, test rigorously, they tell us, the risks and benefits of puberty-blocking drugs for gender-questioning children who can be as young as
8, I think.
Young as 8.
Well, this study is being run by King's College London, and it will involve around 220 young people under 16.
We're going to talk now to Helen Joyce, who's the Director of Advocacy for Sex Matters. Helen, I thought we'd been through it. Forgive me. Good morning. Very nice to see you. I thought we'd had this major review into the Tavistock Institute, which did a lot of this sort of work, the Cass review. I thought we knew where we were now, and yet now we've got these tests being done on children under the age of 10. Why do we need it? Why is it being allowed? Why is it not illegal?
I mean, great questions. I don't think it's needed at all, and I certainly don't think that it's the right approach. It was one of the recommendations, I'm sorry to say, in the Cass report, which was the first and, at the time, far and away the best study of the whole idea of doing gender treatment for children. And it said that we needed more research because, as Baroness Cass rightly pointed out, the evidence base was appalling. There was really very little information out there. Even though these drugs had been used around the world for quite a while, proper follow-ups weren't done. And they certainly weren't done in the UK either. But the thing is, 9,000 children had been through the Tavistock. And of those, 2,000 received puberty blockers. But the adult clinics were so unwilling to cooperate with Hilary Cass that they refused to do what they called a data linkage study, which is to see how those 2,000 kids have fared as they grow up. To me, it is absolutely unethical and just inexplicable that they are exposing more children to these drugs, which we know have serious physical consequences, without finding out how those kids are doing first. I mean, yes, the design is better of the new trial, but I mean, compared with just finding out, like, how are they doing? How are these kids doing? Did they desist? Has their IQ fallen a lot? You know, did they all go on to cross-sex hormones? Are they all sterile? What's their bone density like? We could find out lots of things from those 2,000 kids before we expose any new children to this extreme risk of harm.
It does seem extraordinary that this has been given the go-ahead by the Ethics Committee. I mean, normally drugs in medicine are there to treat disease, but being born male is not a disease. Being born female is not a disease. I don't understand how this has got ethical approval.
A great question. I mean, we know very little about what the ethical committee did because these things are done quite privately, which is quite standard because otherwise you'd have a lot of lobbying from the pharmaceutical industry. So we haven't really seen what we need to from it. But we know from what they've said that they're talking about it's there to treat gender incongruence. It's not even gender distress or gender questioning anymore. I mean, you can't believe in the concept of gender incongruence unless you have enormously sexist.
Can you explain what it... Can you explain what that expression means? Because a lot of people are thinking,
no,
what?
I can't.
Gender
I can't,
what?
because it's nonsense. It's nonsense. What it means can only be a little boy who thinks that he's more like a little girl or a little girl who thinks she's more like a little boy. But that's nonsense. Some little boys are unusual boys. Some little girls are unusual girls. Some people are unhappy being the sex they are. Mostly they grow out of it. Some of them turn out gay. None of this needs treatment. They don't define gender incongruence. They just bring this in and say that's what they're treating, which is the first disgrace. We don't even know what they're trying to solve here. They're trying to solve something that doesn't need solving. As Miriam put it so well, being male is not an illness. Being female is not an illness.
Now, Helen, at the time when the Cass report was published, it was seen as a landmark turning point, really, against the progression into gender ideology. A few people did point out at the time that the potential for a further study left open this potential that we're now seeing carried out, and also the idea that some children are truly trans, which I think you and I probably agree is not true. But nevertheless, Hilary Cass had to walk an extremely difficult line. She faced huge backlash from the trans lobby, even with the report being as calm and conservative as it was. Do you think actually she had any other option in that moment but to recommend some sort of further research?
I'm afraid I do think that she could have been more careful on this one. She could have, for example, said that it would be unethical to do a further study until we had mined the data that we had available to us first. I think that was a mistake of hers, and I do think that there's a risk that she was not thinking about the wider context in which this study would happen. The issue I have always had all along on this, as well as the fact that there is nothing here to treat, and that these drugs are clearly a major intervention in a major developmental stage, namely puberty, is that what does it mean to tell a child that you can do something that puts them on a path to pretending to be the opposite sex for the rest of their lives? Like, this child, post the For Women Scotland judgment, this child is going to have to go into a school where everybody understands that they really are the sex that they actually are, and that they can't go stealth, as some children have up till now in schools, as the opposite sex. But that's the whole point of puberty blockers, is they're meant to help you to pretend more effectively that you're the opposite sex. So if the children are taking puberty blockers, but they aren't allowed to socially transition in schools, this makes the whole thing a nonsense. What are the doctors telling these children to get consent? What are they going to tell the parents? We can give your child this intervention, but they're not going to be allowed to pretend to be the opposite sex in school, and they will never be allowed to pretend that in future for the purposes of single-sex spaces. It makes the whole treatment pathway a nonsense.
But even the children on the trial, Helen, what if it does do them some damage, the trial? How do you undo it?
You can't undo it. This idea that puberty blockers are reversible, which is what they used to say but don't say anymore, was always nonsense, because time can't flow backwards. A child who misses a year's development as part of their cohort has missed something you can't get back. And I mean, they're still saying that they will put off the cross-sex hormones till 16, so they're expecting to have children on puberty blockers for a very long time. I mean, you remember what it was like going through puberty. Anyone who's had children listening to this knows that puberty is an extraordinary time in which children are turned into adults, often quite a difficult time, because that's a major task. So your brain changes, your body changes. It's when you work out what your sexuality is. It's when you free yourself from adults and you become an adult yourself bit by bit. They're sticking a spanner in all of that and saying they're going to keep this child in a state of suspended animation. Even if the child comes off blockers, that's something that's done them harm for the rest of their lives. This is a totally unethical treatment pathway, and I'm so distressed. I really thought it wouldn't get ethical approval, I have to say. It's one of the reasons that I wasn't that worried about it being in the Cass report, was that I just couldn't see how it could get ethical approval. You know, it's probably going to face legal challenge.
Yeah.
Where are the politicians on this?
Well, I was going to say Wes Streeting has in the past been seen as one of the relatively sensible and open-minded people on the left, and yet he has welcomed this trial on Twitter.
It's a lack of responsibility everywhere. Nobody is willing to take responsibility. I mean, as you say, Wes Streeting has generally been rather good on gender issues, but what he has said is he will follow the science. But the scientists, and I'm sure this is true for the ethics committee, they were answering a rather narrow question. You know, how can we design this to maximise the amount of information we get? By the way, it's a very poor study. It's really short term. Like most of the things that we would expect to see as harms from this are long term. But, you know, how can they do it? How can they arrange the forms for consent? That sort of thing. They're not thinking big picture, and they're certainly not thinking about the child as a child who'll go to school and move around in the world and grow up, and what For Women Scotland means for this. That's not their job. So each person is doing their narrow little bit of it, and everybody is saying it's somebody else's job to look at the big picture and protect children. It's really distressing.
It really is. Well, Helen, thank you for that. That's Helen Joyce, who is Director of Advocacy for Sex Matters. We've got a statement from the Department of Health and Social Care, which says...
Young people with gender incongruence need access...
Whatever that means.
...need access to high-quality, safe and effective care. We are following the Cass review, which was clear that the evidence on care for these children is lacking, and proposed this research to help provide it. Medical care must always be based on solid evidence, and children's safety must come first.
Well, up next, there's a Farmers' Day of Unity taking place across Britain today, where they're highlighting their concerns ahead of the budget on Wednesday. Remember, last year the budget introduced inheritance tax on small family farms for the first time. But the tractors are on their way. If you're listening on the radio, they're on their way in, and GB News will be supporting them as ever. But first, here's your European weather forecast for lovely holiday getaways.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The unsettled weather continues across the central Mediterranean. Heavy rain and thunderstorms expected here. Some areas could even see a month's worth of rainfall in just a few days. Mostly dry and settled across Madeira, but many areas of northern Europe are going to see a very unsettled day on Monday. The poorest of conditions likely across Italy and around the Adriatic coastline. Some heavy showers and thunderstorms here. Still a mix of sunshine and showers into next week, with the best of the temperatures across Tenerife.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Brave.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Nine minutes to 11, you're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
The farmers, they are now really, really getting their act together. Thousands of them are taking part in a National Day of Unity.
Well, at the heart of the scene is GB News Yorkshire reporter, but...
And we've got trouble tracking down Anna Rice, but the farmers, I still think, when they look back on this last year, one of the many mistakes they made in the budget, national insurance rise on small employers, particularly, passed on, retailers passed it on in higher prices, which is why inflation's gone up. But 500 million they expect to raise from that tax on, inheritance tax on small family farms. A grievous own goal.
Yeah.
The people love farmers, they love buying British food, and here they are now. If you're listening on the radio, we've got a procession of farmers coming in, and it's disrupting the traffic, but it's a peaceful protest.
Absolutely. And people have, like you say, so much sympathy for farmers. They might be small in number, but they're so important to...
And we want to buy British. Anna Riley, who is our Yorkshire and Humber reporter, is in there with the farmers. Anna, morning.
Good
good morning to you both. Yes, you join us now from the convoy. I'm next to Tom Stamp. He's one of the farmers leading this convoy. I'm just going to flip the camera around there so you can just see what's going on. So we've got tractors at both sides of the road here going on a fairly go slow. Lots of these tractors have signs on them as well. Quite critical of the Labour government, some of these signs. That one there, banned on British fields, imported for your meal. So that's what's happening this morning, and this convoy is going on around near Immingham Docks. Tom, thank you for joining us this morning. What is this protest all about today on the National Day of Unity?
Well, I suppose originally it was changes to IHT which has brought us together, but there's just that many negative things impacting farming at the minute. We're trying to get the message across to Labour. I mean, in the inheritance tax changes are quite at the top of our list to really persuade the government to axe them, because they're just not sustainable for any business, a farm or a family business. So we're just trying to really get some messages across and be listened to, because at the minute the Labour government don't seem to want to know about us.
And how are you being impacted?
Oh, well, since the budget nearly a year ago, it's been mentally draining, really. The change that they're trying to bring in they're not sustainable. It would absolutely devastate our business overnight if it was to come in, and yeah, it's been a hard year, really.
And what would your message to the government be?
Just seriously have a rethink. How much do you actually value this industry, which does so much for many more allied industries? You know, where we buy our tractors from, our seed, our chemical, our fuel. We put money in so many other pockets, and if we don't have the money to spend, then no one else is getting it. And it's yeah, that's our message.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. So that's the view here from a tractor in Lincolnshire.
Well, lots more on this reform scandal.
First, we're going to the weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to a GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, there are showers in the forecast today, sunnier spells developing in the west and more so tomorrow, otherwise still feeling chilly in the winds. So the strongest winds really confined to the southwest of England with gales, but they'll generally start easing. Otherwise, some brighter skies developing, especially across Northern Ireland, Scotland, later into Wales and the southwest of England. But most of the showers really confined to eastern areas, so into eastern Scotland, northeast England. Again, some of these wintry over the hills. Could be some glimmers of sunshine across the southeast, but for most of us, it's a chillier day, especially when exposed to the northerly wind, but feeling a bit more pleasant across Northern Ireland. So as we go through this evening then, temperatures will quickly fall away, especially under the clear skies across western Scotland. Still a focus for showers along the coasts. Across Northern Ireland, a few showers coming down in that northerly wind, and likewise across northern England, perhaps even some of them falling a little bit wintry. Otherwise for England and Wales, it's going to be a mixture of some clear skies, but also some showers, especially focused across Pembrokeshire and then running down into Devon and Cornwall. So as we go overnight into the start of Tuesday morning, actually a lot of those showers across the west do start fading away. It will be turning colder, especially across northern areas where we'll see a touch of frost to start Tuesday morning. Otherwise, still a focus for the showers across eastern areas. So a colder start to Tuesday morning with some icy stretches possible and a frost in places. Otherwise, through Tuesday, most of us should see a largely dry day with more in the way of sunshine. There'll still be a focus for those showers running down along eastern coast, so into northeastern England, and a few showers across the southwest. But through the day, they'll start fading away. So hopefully feeling a little bit more pleasant with lighter winds and more in the way of sunshine on Tuesday.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB 17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain's economy is at a crossroads.
And this budget day, every decision counts.
From taxes and rent to the cost of living. Whatever the outcome, the GB News family will be there.
With expert analysis breaking down what it means for you.
Budget day, all day Wednesday.
Only here on the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Morning at 11 o'clock on Monday the 24th of November, live across the UK. Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, the Tory chairman, Kevin Hollinrake, has compared Reform UK to Nazis, likening Nigel Farage's Golden Reform logo to Adolf Hitler's Golden Party badge. Reform's head of policy, Zia Youssef, spoke to us moments ago.
He thought it was a joke, it's certainly not funny, and the fact that he took it down and then put it back up again, and it remains there, tells you everything you need to know about the fact that this is now clearly the official and endorsed view of the Tory party.
The Prime Minister, the Secretary of Work and Pensions, and this whole government are committed to reforming our welfare state.
Just 2 days until the budget, and the Chancellor is set to unveil £15 billion of extra welfare spending, funded by a tax raise on the middle class.
And it's Judgment Day for the BBC as board members face make or break questions from MPs. That's if the MPs ask the right questions about their edit of that infamous Donald Trump speech.
And children as young as 10 will be given puberty blockers on the NHS next year after a trial was granted ethical approval.
And the former Prime Minister, Lord Cameron, has revealed he's beaten prostate cancer. He's now joined the call for a national screening programme.
Well, Andrew, we were just talking in the break about needing to buy advent calendars because it's nearly Advent, but I feel like we should have had a countdown calendar to the budget because it's been going on for so long.
Forever and ever. It's the latest budget I've ever known, November the 26th, Wednesday, which has allowed, in that vacuum, all sorts of lurid speculation. Most of it has been fuelled, I have to say, by the Chancellor herself.
Yeah, absolutely. And no one wants to pay more tax, and I think raising the basic rate of tax would have had backlash. But on the other hand, trying to find all these other different sneaky ways of taxing people will probably be more unpopular and have more impact on growth.
But they will raise tax because they're going to freeze thresholds again, which means the people who are going to be, a lot more people will be dragged into the 40p rate of tax. That would be nurses and teachers. In other words, their income tax bill is going to rise.
Because she will not cut spending, and the Labour backbenchers will not agree that the welfare budget cannot keep growing and growing.
Well, it's going to go up 15 billion according to the latest leaks this morning. As ever, though, we want to know what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Katie Bowen.
Miriam, Andrew, thank you and good morning. The headlines at 2 minutes past 11. The government must change course and make hard choices at the budget on Wednesday, the boss of the UK's largest business group has warned. CBI boss Ray Newton-Smith says the Chancellor must avoid, quote, death by 1,000 taxes that could risk the UK getting locked in a stop-start economy. Speculation continues to grow on how the Chancellor will handle the welfare system in her budget. Reports today suggesting that she will unveil £15 billion of extra benefit spending, alongside scrapping the two-child benefit cap. Business and Trade Secretary Peter Kyle said at the CBI conference that the UK is still in a growth emergency. Earlier, he spoke to GB News Breakfast.
This will be a budget where we will get a grip on the cost of living challenges, because that is what affecting people up and down the country. We'll protect the NHS, and we will make sure that we start to tackle the long-term debt challenges that we inherited from the previous government. We will also lay the foundations for growth. The only way that our country can move forward, the only way we get real fairness for working people and pensioners right across the country, is to get growth into our economy, and that is what I, as Business Secretary, am doubling down on.
While Shadow Business and Trade Secretary Andrew Griffith says there is a huge gulf between parties and their economic policies.
But it's becoming very clear now. We've got this huge gulf between those that work hard, those that try and save for their retirement, pensioners, small businesses, farmers, people who get up and go to work early every day, and the people that this Labour government seems to want to support, which is the public sector and those on welfare.
Elsewhere, senior staff members at the BBC will face questions from MPs later today on the corporation's editorial standards. BBC Chairman Samir Shah, board member Sir Robbie Gibb and former editorial advisor Michael Prescott will all face the Culture, Media and Sport Committee. They wrote to the BBC after a report by Mr Prescott raised concerns that a Panorama episode edited a speech made by President Donald Trump before the Capitol Hill riots in 2021. Mr Shah apologised on behalf of the BBC over an error of judgment in the edit following the resignation of Director General Tim Davie and News Chief Deborah Turnus. President Trump has said that he will sue the corporation, while US regulator, the Federal Communications Commission, launched an investigation. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he will continue to work with partners on compromises to the US peace deal in order to strengthen, not weaken, Ukraine. His comments come as US Secretary of State Marco Rubio hailed, quote, a tremendous amount of progress on Ukraine-Russia peace talks, but warned that negotiators would need more time as delegations met in Geneva yesterday. The talks come as Russia's defence ministry said that air defence systems had intercepted and destroyed 93 Ukrainian drones overnight. A woman who died in Wiltshire has been described by colleagues as an incredible person and kind person. 55-year-old Sarah Forrester, who worked for mental health charity the Kelly Foundation, was found dead at her home in Swindon on Friday evening. A 13-year-old girl was arrested on suspicion of murder but has been since released on police bail. Former Prime Minister Lord Cameron has revealed that he's been treated for prostate cancer. David Cameron said he was urged to get a PSA test by his wife Samantha and was later diagnosed after an MRI scan and a biopsy. After being successfully treated, the former Prime Minister says he now wants to use his position to call for screenings to be offered to high-risk men. And the Princess of Wales has called for the stigma faced by those with addictions to end and society to show compassion and love to those dependent on drugs, alcohol or gambling. In a message to mark Addiction Awareness Week, the Princess said that society's experience of addiction was shaped by fear, shame and judgment, and urged people to have open conversations to bring the issue out of the shadows. Princess Catherine is patron of the Forward Trust, a charity supporting recovering addicts, and they're behind the week-long campaign. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Andrew and Miriam.
Hello, welcome back. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Lots of people getting in touch. I bet, are they very agitated about the Tories and reform?
Oh, always, always. Let's have a look what people have been saying. Very agitated about farmers, actually, because, of course, strong support always for our farmers. Alison says, I hope people give the farmers all the support they need. It's an industry that's been disregarded for years. And then we're just about to talk about this puberty blockers story again. And Mandy says, I can't believe this country is going to allow children puberty blockers. Holly says, it's surely cruelty to allow children to take part in this puberty blockers trial. A lot of people feel like that, Andrew. How can it be acceptable to experiment on children when there's actually nothing physically wrong with these children?
I'm amazed that the parents who are going to allow it to happen.
Yeah, extraordinary. And in some of the ethical publications, it said this will only be for children who persistently ask for the hormone treatment. Well, if they've been on social media and it's told them that they have a problem that needs to be cured with cross-sex hormones or puberty blockers, of course they're going to persistently ask for it. But children persistently ask for lots of things that aren't good for them.
And parents say, have a habit. I mean, the word I grew up most of all in my house was no.
No, that's right.
Because that's what your parents would say.
That's right. Parents are there to protect their children. And as Helen Joyce was telling us, these puberty blockers are not irreversible. There's plenty of evidence that even though puberty can restart if the blockers are stopped, it may have long-term implications for brain development, for sexual function, all sorts of things that an 8-year-old cannot consent to.
8 years old. Let them just be children, for God's sake.
Absolutely.
Well, there's also a brand new way to take part in the conversation. You can become a friend of GB News for free. Take a look.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
Well, we're joined now by the independent MP for Canterbury, Rosie Duffield. Rosie, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Rosie, you've been a very outspoken and brave voice championing children who have been medically transitioned or socially transitioned from male to female and vice versa. What's your reaction to the news that there will now be an ethical, apparently, clinical trial of puberty blockers on children in the UK?
I mean, it's really shocking, isn't it, Miriam? You and I both worked on this for a long time in Parliament, and we know that adults' brains don't finish growing till they're 25, 26, and we don't allow people to vote or, buy alcohol. We even ban sugary drinks or put a tax on them and ban some advertising. But we're saying, are we, that 10, 11 and 12-year-old children have the mental capacity to decide on something that will change their entire future? That's absolutely preposterous. And like you said, we're using them as guinea pigs or lab rats.
Is it because, Rosie, why is there no political consensus against this? I mean, you're speaking out very bravely, but nothing from the Conservative Party, nothing from Reform, and Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, who's been quite outspoken in this area before, is actually welcoming this trial.
I think because it was part of the CAS review that we do more trials, and I think people have widely accepted that. But there's trials and then there's live trials on children, which I'm not sure people really realised was actually going to sort of translate through from that review all the way down to actually doing it. And I think the Conservatives, as far as I understand, are getting their act together on this and working out a way to respond. But they're not going to vote for anything like this, if indeed it ever comes before the House, which it may not.
Do you think there's any chance of stopping this trial through public pressure? It seems to have been through all the usual ethical committees. King's College London, a reputable university, is going to run it. Do you think there's any chance of stopping this legally or politically?
Well, I'm going to do my best, and I know lots of feminists, lots of activists, lots of groups, people like Sex Matters, and you talked about Helen Joyce earlier. All of those people are probably going to oppose it. We might even see some people mount a legal challenge, but if we don't, we're looking at potentially another post office scandal or infected blood, people that are going to be suing governments or trying to get their lives back, if indeed they make it to full adulthood, because we don't know some of the catastrophic effects, apart from people like Keira Bell, who've spoken out very bravely about what happened to her.
I don't know what the point of this trial is.
I'm not sure either. I guess to gather evidence, because there just isn't enough, and there hasn't been enough data collected. The Tavistock Clinic were obviously called out for just not keeping accurate records on who was coming to see them and what the effects were. So I guess it's an attempt to do that. But you would think that drug companies like Ferring and others involved would have been able to do their own testing before it went to market. So I'm not really sure either, Andrew, actually.
Do you think sometimes politicians have a tendency to defer to the science as if evidence could solve a question like this? Do you think we just actually need to grow a moral backbone and say it's wrong to try and turn a boy into a girl or vice versa?
I think that's a really interesting point. Obviously, we need experts and we need science for loads of things, but I think something like this, we are responsible at the end of the day. Every single politician has, to some degree, a duty of care to the young people in our country and to voters and future voters. And I can't, not in my name or in the name of my constituency, I can't say that I think it's OK to experiment on 10-year-olds, something that we know is probably irreversible.
And I'm just curious about which parents would want to give in to this. I mean, I'm not a parent, Miriam's a parent, and I just can't fathom how a parent would think it's appropriate.
I think, to be fair to parents, they've probably had children who feel desperate, very anxious. Like Miriam just said, people who've seen lots of things on social media. Lots of us think that this is a social contagion. You know, when we were growing up, we didn't see waves of people wanting to do this. And I think it has a lot to do with everyone looking at social media, being a bit more isolated, the anxiety we know young people have. I don't blame parents when they're desperate, but they're not getting the right advice if they think this is the best thing to do for their children at this age. Wait till they're adults.
Yeah.
Now, Rosie, it's not just children who are affected by this debate and this ideology. We understand that there's going to be a protest later on in Westminster against male prisoners being allowed into women's prisons. I can't believe this is still going on.
Yes, quite.
I know. It is quite amazing, isn't it? Given especially the Supreme Court ruling, which made it really clear that biological men had to be separated from biological women. And if they're at Downview, which is a women's prison, then they're not. They're not actually complying with that law. The Supreme Court made it really clear. So I don't think there's a protest so much as a rally. We're going to have a lot of people gathering together and just talking about this. And my friend Rebecca Paul has got the adjournment debate this evening on it. And we want some answers from the government about what they're going to do, because there was a report in September and they haven't made a comment on that since.
Well, Rosie Duffield, thank you as ever for joining us on the programme.
And Rosie, keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you.
You're of course, you're an independent now. Is there any move by the Labour Party to bring you back into the fold, or would you not be interested anyway, Rosie?
I might. We'll see who takes over from Keir after the disastrous elections in May 26.
Oh.
So you're pretty sure that's going to happen next May?
Absolutely certain, as are all Labour MPs.
Yeah, I think. Who do you think it would be?
Oh, I just don't know at the moment, to be honest. I'd be lying. I know who's trying, but I don't know who's going to actually succeed. There's the membership, the public, and MPs, and they sometimes vote for different things, so we'll see.
All right, Rosie. Well, very interesting. Nice to talk to you as ever, Rosie Duffield, who's the MP for Canterbury.
Independent. We should say that Keir Starmer's not here to defend himself, and he has a massive majority. He may be Prime Minister for some
there
time
isn't
to
a
come.
Labour MP I speak to privately who doesn't think he's on his way out.
Well, a Department for Health and Social Care spokesperson said young people with gender incongruence need...
Oh, that word
access to
again. Gender incongruence, what does it mean?
High quality, safe and effective care. We've got to read it out, Andrew. We are following the CAS review, which was clear that the evidence on care for these children is lacking, and proposed this research to help provide it. Medical care must always be based on solid evidence, and children's safety must come first. And to be fair, it was a recommendation of the CAS review, which many of us warned would be dangerous at the time, but nevertheless, it was in there.
You don't have to accept it.
Indeed.
Now, there's only a few weeks left until Christmas, and time is running out for you to enjoy it on all of us. £40,000 in tax-free cash, £1,000 spending your favourite supermarket. It's going to be a great festive GB News goodie bag. Here's how you win it.
There's just 31 days until Christmas, and it's the final week to see how you can enjoy it on us. That's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 fantastic. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family, the tree and decorations. £1,000 in vouchers to buy a slap-up Christmas lunch at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. Plus, we're going to get it all to you in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, if you're worried about the comfort and well-being of those 600 migrants who are being housed at an old army camp in East Suffolk, we'll put your mind at ease. Some of the freebies they'll be getting.
Which you're paying for. We'll be going through all of that and more with former MEP Annunciata Rees-Mogg and former Labour advisor Matthew Talbot. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 11:21 and you're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
And we've got Annunciata Rees-Mogg and Matthew Talbot's in the studio. You want to talk about this arts and craft camp, don't you?
Desperately. Yeah. Can I go?
Yeah.
Sounds like a good break.
All paid for by the taxpayer.
Yeah.
You can learn to paint.
Absolutely, and I can also play sports and have culturally sensitive expeditions.
It's like the Labour Party conference.
Sounds more fun.
32,000 for an activity coordinator to provide inclusive, culturally sensitive subject matters aligned with migrants' interests.
What does that mean?
I don't know, but I would really rather prefer they were aligned with British interests so that we don't end up with people who turn round and claim they didn't know the law when they do something abhorrent.
Or the British way of life.
Or the British way of life. And it's all very well to be inclusive, but actually these are people who have come to our country illegally, that have broken our laws already by getting here, and do not deserve soft soap.
And all people should be treated humanely.
Of course.
But that doesn't mean we should make it attractive to come here. And isn't this just another example of the pull factors that Shabana Mahmood herself has recognised?
I don't think so. And actually,
Not a fan of
maybe it's just me. No, I'm terrible at arts and crafts, so I won't be bothered. No, but I think some of it... This wouldn't bother me. And it doesn't. I struggle to be bothered by this sort of stuff. It's an 8-year contract. The amount of money that's touted, you're talking about 18 million quid a year. Sounds a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, it isn't. And I know people will be annoyed with that at home. It isn't. It's very focused on the arts and crafts. Right, fine, whatever. But also, if we want people to integrate, this is also about English lessons. And if these people, this is why people will be annoyed. If these were true refugees, I ain't got a problem with it. Because these people will most certainly be given refuge here. An asylum, therefore you want them to be integrated, you want them to have an understanding of things, how to access money and whatever else. I don't mind. I think the problem is you can't guarantee all of these are, because we have a border system that doesn't work, an asylum system that's broken. Could there be money be spent more targeted in a better place elsewhere? Yeah, maybe. I think to describe it as a holiday camp is very on brand for The Sun, because this is how they describe our prisons. They're miserable places. This is effectively built like a prison. You don't really get out of there, and you're only really there for 8 weeks anyway.
But, I would lock them in. I think there's no...
Yeah, they're not locked in.
Military camps if you don't lock them in. Why not? What's
we've had things like this at Yarlswood, and I think there's different people that are there, which actually concerns me, because there's going to be vulnerable people potentially that are true asylum seekers, maybe women and children and whatever else, or maybe some vulnerable blokes that have been abused or whatever, in there with people who are potentially waiting to be deported because they've done serious crimes. And I don't know how they separate these people, whether it's on different wings.
That's the same as being in a prison.
Exactly, and it may well be that they're on different wings, but it's not, these are windowless cells and stuff.
Well,
it's not enjoyable.
I would use... The whole point of having a former military camp, use it as a military camp, keep them in, and don't let them out.
Absolutely.
And that would reassure the local community.
The local community, we're looking at I think it's 800 at any one time, but 3,000 people going through this facility. How is the local community meant to deal with that? That if you're allowing them to all go out, they will... create need of services.
Although we laugh about the arts and crafts, isn't it actually better that they do have on-site entertainment and activities? If they were bored, that would surely be worse for the local community.
Well, I mean, Matthew would be bored. He doesn't like arts and crafts.
Yes,
you can't please all the people all of the time. But they have come here illegally. They aren't here to enjoy themselves.
That's right. And it's their choice.
Yeah. They could go home.
If true refugees, there isn't really much choice in it. And what you'll find is with a lot of people, they'd rather be back at home, but for whatever reason, if it's a war-torn country.
Yeah.
And you'll have people at home, I can hear people screaming, they're not. Listen, many of them are. You've heard me say that. It concerns me. We should have some level of offshore processing, or you can go through your UK asylum, British embassy in whatever country to save you the trek and whatever else. I totally get that. But for those, the idea of having a welfare buddy, I'm fine with. If you've been through serious issues, FGM and whatever else, fine. Get somebody in to deal with them.
It's increasingly clear that although there are people like that, there are an overwhelming number of people who are gaming the system, who know exactly what to say. I mean, there are numerous stories in the papers this weekend about Pakistanis claiming asylum, even though Pakistan is not at war, about people pretending to be a particular minority that is stateless in Kuwait. They know exactly what to say. They're repeating it to the Home Office. I don't think anyone really believes any longer that the majority of people in these camps are from war-torn countries. The majority are economic migrants seeking a better life. We understand that. But it's our job as British people and the government to disincentivise that. And
that's where I don't disagree. You've said what we should be angry at. I can be angry at people coming here and taking the mick. Of course I can. Can I blame them for coming here because it is attractive, or do I blame the politicians who've created vague laws which have allowed human rights lawyers to essentially do their job and allow judges to infer what they feel is the law or what isn't the law because the laws are so vague?
Undoubtedly, the more attractive we make it, the more people will want to come. And we already have a completely out of control number of people wanting to come to our country. We have to not only not provide incentives such as arts and classes,
sorry, Nancy, we're going to
but get people kicked out.
We will come back, but we're going to cross live to the CBI Business Conference where the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch is speaking.
I remember at the time people saying... I remember at the time people saying that the CBI would cease to exist, other organisations were going to take over. I'm very pleased to see you go from strength to strength, but I am very sad, Rupert, that this is your last CBI conference, so thank you so much for all that you have done. And thank you, all of you. I know that you're all very busy people. You have staff to pay, customers to serve, boards to convince, banks to placate, and you're spending your time this morning with me. I'm very, very grateful. Because the people in this room, you, are the people who keep Britain going. You are the people who drive our economy, and I know how hard things have been. Over the past year, I have visited more than 150 businesses, big listed companies, family firms, tech startups here and in the US, manufacturers in the Midlands, hospitality in coastal towns, oil and gas firms in Aberdeen. I have sat in your boardrooms, walked on your shop floors and back offices, and I have listened. And what you tell me is very simple. You want to grow, you want to invest, you want to hire, but you feel squeezed, second-guessed, constantly interfered with by a government that doesn't really understand how business works. We are all waiting in trepidation for the budget in just 2 days' time. We spent the last 3 months hearing nothing except which horrible taxes are coming. But when I visit businesses and I ask them what causes the most anxiety, yes, they do talk about the tax burden. But the single measure that is complained about more than any other in this government's programme is not a tax rise. It is the Employment Rights Bill. Businesses don't oppose rights for workers. You know that good staff are your most valuable asset, but you can see, better than anyone in Westminster, that this bill is not about fairness. It is about power. It is about putting unions in charge of your workplace and sending you the bill. So I want to explain why Conservatives oppose it, why we will repeal the terrible measures in it, and how that fits into a bigger Conservative plan to get Britain working again. First, let's be clear what we are dealing with. This bill is not a little tweak to modernise the law. It is a 330-page assault on flexible working written in the TUC's headquarters, designed to drag Britain back to a world where unions call the shots and employers carry the blame. For 30 years, flexible labour markets have been one of Britain's real strengths. They allowed us to create millions of jobs after the financial crisis. They helped us keep unemployment much lower than competitor countries. They are one of the reasons we became the largest exporter of financial services in the world right up till 2024. This bill rips that up. Take day one tribunal rights. Under this bill, a new hire can turn up at 9 in the morning and lodge a claim with an employment tribunal before they've even worked out where the toilets are. There are already 491,000 claims in the tribunal backlog. Yes, you heard that right. 491,000 claims right now. It takes about 2 years for a case to be heard. Most employers are told by their lawyers to settle, even when they have done nothing wrong, because it is not worth the hassle or the expense to fight the case. That does not protect workers. It just makes hiring riskier, slower, and a lot more expensive. It is a gift to the litigious and a disincentive for anyone who wants to give someone a job. Then there is the de facto ban on seasonal and flexible work. If a university undergraduate, a student, anyone chooses to get a Christmas job and works 40 hours a week in the 3 months to December, they then have the right to those same hours in January, February, and March. Except there's no demand then. There's no need for extra staff or the money to pay them. So a measure designed to ensure employment does the opposite and everyone loses. You know what happens then. Rational employers stop taking on seasonal staff at all. The farm does not hire the extra fruit pickers, the hotel does not take on staff for the summer, and of course, the high street shop does not offer Christmas jobs. These are the very opportunities that got many of us started. My first job was on the high street. I started at McDonald's, and then I got a job in New Look, part-time. Those were the places that gave me a chance to learn. Many of you in this room probably had your first job during a summer holiday or on a Christmas shift. These opportunities are at a real risk of disappearing because of this legislation. And there is more. Let's look at the so-called right to roam. Under this bill, any union with designs on your workforce gets the legal right to march into your private business to recruit members. If you employ 21 or more people, that union can insist that you gather your staff, give it physical access to your workplace, and even provide a platform on your internal digital networks for the union. And they can do this every single week. It's in the legislation. This is not industrial relations. This is industrial intimidation. And then we have lower strike thresholds. Today, unions need a 50% turnout to call a lawful strike. Under Labour's bill, that safeguard is attacked. There just needs to be a majority of those who turn out in favour of strike action. So to use an extreme example, in a workforce of 1,000, if only 3 people choose to vote and 2 of them vote to strike, the entire organisation can be held to ransom. Yes, this is an extreme example, but it is to highlight the absurdity of these provisions. This is what happens when you design law in a back room at the TUC instead of in the real world. None of this is about giving ordinary workers a fair deal. It is all about giving union barons, bureaucrats, and employment lawyers more power. So when I say that this is not a pro-worker bill, I mean it. It is a pro-union, anti-business, anti-growth blueprint. It punishes the people who create jobs, and it will hurt the very people that it claims to help. That is why Conservatives will repeal every job-destroying anti-business measure in it. Britain cannot prosper with a state that smothers ambition and a labour market that is designed solely for union bosses rather than for the millions of people who want to work, hire, build, and grow. Now, some people will say that this is all exaggerated. They will say it is about fairness and that somehow Britain can absorb all of this without cost. You know that that is not true. It will cost businesses £5 billion. Peter Kyle said this morning that the government's #1 priority is growth. This destroys growth. That £5 billion that will have to be met with higher prices or fewer jobs. I do not believe that a government that has growth as a #1 priority will be pushing this. They have their heads in the sand. I heard Peter Kyle today say that there are going to be 26 consultations, so it's going to be all right. It is not going to be all right. And if 26 consultations are what you need to fix things, then you have a really, really big problem. We do not have a growth problem in the UK because British people need more rights. We have a growth problem because the state is too big. Fewer and fewer people are working to support more and more people out of work and living on welfare. The rider is getting heavier than the horse. And then look at the productivity costs. Every hour spent dealing with a tribunal claim is an hour you are not spending on a new product. Every law that makes you think twice about hiring is a law that stops someone getting their first job. Every regulation that moves risk from the state to the employer nudges investment out of Britain and into countries that still understand reward. Right now, Britain needs more people in work, more investment, more experts, more risk-taking, not more rules. We need to get Britain working again. That is how we pay for our NHS. That is how we fund defence. That is how we look after the vulnerable. Keir Starmer talks the talk of national renewal and growth, but he walks the walk of stagnation and decline. And that is why this bill is such a problem. It attacks the very flexibility that made us resilient in the past. It tells investors that our politics is moving in the wrong direction. It makes it harder to hire, harder to fire, harder to adapt. It is the opposite of what a serious pro-growth strategy would look like, and the price tag is eye-watering. The government's own impact assessments put that cost to employers at £5 billion a year. This wasn't us that made up that number. That has come from the government, and they're still doing it. So who are we fighting for when we oppose this bill? It's very clear. We are on the side of the small business that cannot afford an in-house legal team, but still wants to take a chance on a young apprentice. We are on the side of the saver and the pensioner whose livelihoods depend on this country actually growing. We are on the side of the worker who wants work to pay, not to be trapped in a welfare system that rewards idleness and punishes effort. We are on the side of the young person looking for their first break, who may find that opportunity never exists because this bill stops companies making an offer. We are not on the side of those who treat business as a piggy bank and the law as a political weapon. What Britain needs now is real fairness. Real fairness means living within our means out of respect for taxpayers. It means helping people back to work because idleness wastes lives. It means planning for tomorrow's children, not just today's headlines. That is why our economic argument is simple. We need to get Britain working to deliver a stronger economy. To do that, government must get its own house in order. Our golden economic rule is clear. For every pound we save, at least half goes to paying down the deficit and the rest goes to investing in our priorities for growth. But living within our means is only half the story. We also need a state that stops suffocating enterprise. That means a relentless focus on deregulation and simplification. So how do you know that I'm serious? It's because I've done it before. When I was business secretary, I started a smarter regulation programme. We reformed working time reporting requirements, saving businesses up to £1 billion a year. We raised company size thresholds to take smaller firms out of the most onerous reporting rules. I said a hard no to things like mandatory ethnicity pay reporting that would have created spreadsheets for all sorts of activists instead of jobs for workers. That is the direction we must go in again. A Conservative government, led by me, would scrap pointless reporting burdens and let managers manage. We would focus the state on what it should do: secure our borders, enforce the law, protect property rights, provide essential services, reliable infrastructure, and then get out of your way. For those of you who don't know, this week is Family Business Week. So it's a great opportunity to remind everyone that it is Conservative policy to scrap Labour's family business tax. And there is so much more. But we are doing this not because we are anti-worker, but because we know where growth really comes from. It does not come from the Treasury. It comes from you, from the risk you take when you sign that lease, from the mortgage you put up against your own home, from the hours you put in after everyone else has gone home, and we believe you should be rewarded for that. So on Wednesday, we will finally see the budget, although it feels as if we've seen about 3 different versions of it before Rachel Reeves has even stood at the dispatch box. And I expect that we will hear warm words about fairness and national renewal. We will be told that there is a hole in the public finances and that everyone must do their bit, and we will see tax rises dressed up as necessity. They're not. We need to cut spending. But if Rachel Reeves is serious about growth, if this government really cares about the future of British business, there is one easy, cost-free decision that they can take. And that is to scrap the Employment Rights Bill. This bill does not raise a single pound in revenue. It does not help a single unemployed person into work. It does not add a single unit of productivity. It is a pure political project. Killing it would be a sign to the world that Britain still understands what makes an economy grow. And if the Chancellor had any sense and any regard for business, she would use the budget to say, "We got this one wrong," and then she would drop it. It would be the cheapest pro-growth measure in the Red Book. And if she does not, then I repeat my promise. At the first opportunity under my leadership, a Conservative government will repeal every job-destroying anti-growth measure in this bill, and we will restore common sense. We will send a very clear message that Britain is open for business again. But I will end with this, a message to all of you. You cannot sit this out. Too often in recent years, business has retreated from the argument for fear of criticism. That cannot continue. If you believe in enterprise, believe in opportunity, and believe in the idea that wealth has to be created before it can be shared, then we need you. Speak up. Tell your staff what this bill means for jobs. Tell your customers what constant tax rises and red tape are doing to prices. Challenge those who treat you as a problem to be managed, not a partner in our national success. The choice for Britain is stark. It's a future of higher taxes, thicker rule books, and slower growth, or a country where government lives within its means, business is free to grow, and work pays once again. I know which side I'm on. And if you stand with us, let's get Britain working again. Then together we can deliver a stronger economy and a better future for our country.
Speaking at the CBI conference, that would have been her first speech as party, or maybe her second, because she was leader this time last year, wasn't she? Punchy speech, heard in almost silence, Annunziata.
It was. I mean, the CBI is a quite serious audience. It's not a party political event. That's not what they're there for. But it was a very punchy speech. She did not hold back. I rather liked her analogy of the rider is getting heavier than the horse. Because, I mean, it's true. The burden of laws, regulations and red tape on businesses is meaning they can't hire, they can't grow and they can't invest in our country.
And Matthew, she spent quite a lot of time criticising the Employment Rights Bill, saying that it was a gift to the litigious, and even using the example that no longer would employers be able to offer seasonal work, let's say in October, November and December in the build-up to Christmas, because then they'd be obliged to offer the same hours to that person in January, February, March, when there's just no demand. Yeah,
there's elements of the bill like that where I thought there was maybe a bit of overreach. I thought a better line of hers, in fairness, it was a strong speech, was when she said, we won't take business as a piggy bank and the law as a political weapon. I thought that was quite strong. Some of the stuff she said, I'm not sure. Welfare reform, I think, is you know, it's the hot topic I think I agree with. you know, the Centre for Social Justice have done some research that said actually if you were to cut back on PIP and universal credit, and you've reformed that so that those with the most mild mental health issues, you could save about $5 billion. You could put another $1 billion of that into things like talking therapy. And she's right about the fact that idleness can wreck lives, and I think work is a good thing. The idea of unions coming into your workplace, and it's something to be feared from. That's always been the case, I thought. When I worked in supermarkets and on the high street, there would be days where the union would come in and they would basically say, do you want to sign up? This is what we do. Now, it's up to you whether you want to sign up. And I always think with things like this, if you're a business owner and you're a good business owner, you've got nothing to be worried about necessarily. And I don't buy the fact that somebody are we really having people on day one coming in going, right, I'm just going to put in a complaint? I don't buy people are actually doing that.
Or if Ange Rayner, who's no longer in charge of all this legislation, day one, go sick. Day one, you can claim maternity leave. Madness. Madness.
You can find out you're pregnant, I suppose. That's a grey area for me. I think sickness... You should be entitled to... What I don't like is the fact that if you are sick and you're actually sick, why should you not get sickness pay like everybody else? Mickey takers will always Mickey take, I agree.
Annunciata hasn't, the last few years, shown us, if nothing else, that people are absolutely willing to abuse the system and take advantage of it.
Completely, and we only have to look at how benefits claims have ballooned, particularly sickness benefits, to know that people are happy to take advantage when that's the more profitable thing to do. And you might not be concerned that unions can go into any business every week if they've got more than 21 employees. But I think her point that this is law designed in the back room of the TUC is absolutely spot on. The Labour government has already suffered from strike action. The doctors yet again going on strike. And yet this is just handing more power to the unions and taking autonomy away from individual
Train drivers
businesses.
been on strike as well, despite the bumper pay rise.
Yep.
No strings attached when they get these bumper pay rises, it seems.
No productivity requirements.
No.
It's absolutely incredible.
Matthew, I do understand why the Labour Party wants to bring in legislation on workers' rights. They are the Labour Party. They came into existence to support people in work. But things have changed so much in 100 years in terms of workers' rights. Do you think they're just doing this for the sake of it now, for political reasons, rather than there is a genuine problem that needs solving?
Possibly, but I would say there is a problem that needs solving. I cannot count the amount of jobs I worked where you were treated like dirt and there was a total imbalance when it came to the employer and the employee. Now, if you can level out that balance ever so slightly, they're always going to have some level of upper hand over you, totally. And there are elements of the bill that I wouldn't have done. But when you've got, you know, I'd work in kitchens, you have people coming in crying at the way they've been treated, or the idea that 0 hours is a very contested sort of area of employment rights.
With some people.
It is, but when you were told, well, we've not made any money this week in a restaurant, so do you want to go home? It's up to you, and it was sold to you as a guise, it's up to you to go home 3 or 4 hours early. You better believe if you didn't, 3 or 4 hours had come off your rota next week, and therefore you'd wonder how to pay the bills. And I hate this instability. Stability and feeling safe is a very
To have stability in any of these things, we need a stable economy. And at the moment, our economy is going down the pan and we have no growth. We can't have that with this bill.
We've run out of time. Thank you to the panel, Matthew Talbot and Annunziata Rees-Mogg. Now, the former Prime Minister, David Cameron, Lord Cameron, has revealed that he's been treated and has cured it, prostate cancer.
Well, David Cameron said he was urged to get a PSA test by his wife, Samantha, and was later diagnosed after an MRI scan and a biopsy.
Let's talk to Junior Dr Basha Mukherjee, who's a very good friend of this programme. Good morning to you, Doctor.
Good morning. Actually a GP now, but yes.
Oh, well, very good, very good. Now, the moral here is, particularly for men who are very reluctant to get their bits checked, you've got to get tested, particularly at a certain age.
Absolutely. I will say, though, with the PSA test, it does come back with a lot of false positives. What it is very good at is picking up really highly aggressive types of prostate cancer. I don't know the history, obviously, of every single person out there, but definitely for men who've had a family history of prostate cancer, if they're of Afro-Caribbean background over the age of 50, they should definitely think about getting a general health check done. It's not necessary that the PSA will come back giving the exact answers that you're looking for, which is the prostate blood test. At the moment, we don't have any better way. So I always say that the symptoms are the best indicators, really, of signs of prostate cancer.
Because people have often called for a similar national screening programme like for women. There's the cervical test, smear set and mammogram for breast cancer. But what you're saying is that although it would be a great idea to have an equivalent for men and prostate cancer, there really isn't actually anything as accurate out there at the moment.
That's right. And also one thing we have to identify is the fact that with prostate cancer, majority of cases of prostate cancer, people tend to die of other illnesses rather than prostate cancer itself. So you might have prostate cancer and it's going to be like kind of a wait and watch approach where we just monitor it over time. We monitor the PSA, we monitor patients' symptoms, and you might actually have any other illness that the person passes away from. So actually, sometimes we find that even if we've screened patients early, we might have picked it up. That might have resulted in more invasive procedures, more invasive investigations needing to be done, which then reduces the quality of the person's life than if they had picked it up later down the line, because ultimately it doesn't necessarily always change the end outcome.
How important is it that people who are in the public eye, like David Cameron, speak out?
I think from a men's health point of view, it's really important to talk about it. I think a lot of men are worried to even go approach this topic with their doctors just because they are anticipating they'll have the finger up the bum. But actually, that's not necessarily the only way for us to identify prostate cancer now. We can do quite advanced MRI scans as well, which are like fast replacing an invasive examination, something that a lot of men feel quite intimidated by. I've certainly had men who've come with anything men's health related and very very sheepish around that topic. So it's really important to get talking about it. I mean, women, on the other hand, there's so much good press out there about breast cancer awareness, with, even raising funds for breast cancer. There's just so much more acceptance around checking your own breast, checking yourself, and being in tune with your own body. And I think that needs to happen for men as well. Men do sometimes only come after months of being nagged by their wives.
Absolutely. Well, Bashir Mukherjee, now a GP.
Now
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. We need more GPs, particularly like you. Lovely to talk to you. And I get tested every year.
Oh, very good.
I'm a man of a certain age.
Absolutely.
Vulnerable. Matthew Talbot, hope you're being tested. I know you're a bit younger than me.
I am. But things like this make you think and go, I should really.
We'll hear more from you next week because we've got to go. Up next, the weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to a GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, there are showers in the forecast today, sunnier spells developing in the west and more so tomorrow, otherwise still feeling chilly in the winds. So the strongest winds really confined to the southwest of England with gales, but they'll generally start easing. Otherwise, some brighter skies developing, especially across Northern Ireland, Scotland, later into Wales and the southwest of England. But most of the showers really confined to eastern areas, so into eastern Scotland, northeast England. Again, some of these wintry over the hills. Could be some glimmers of sunshine across the southeast, but for most of us, it's a chillier day, especially when exposed to the northerly wind, but feeling a bit more pleasant across Northern Ireland. So as we go through this evening then, temperatures will quickly fall away, especially under the clear skies across western Scotland. Still a focus for showers along the coasts. Across Northern Ireland, a few showers coming down in that northerly wind, and likewise across northern England, perhaps even some of them falling a little bit wintry. Otherwise for England and Wales, it's going to be a mixture of some clear skies, but also some showers, especially focused across Pembrokeshire and then running down into Devon and Cornwall. So as we go overnight into the start of Tuesday morning, actually a lot of those showers across the west do start fading away. It will be turning colder, especially across northern areas where we'll see a touch of frost to start Tuesday morning. Otherwise, still a focus for the showers across eastern areas. So a colder start to Tuesday morning with some icy stretches possible and a frost in places. Otherwise, through Tuesday, most of us should see a largely dry day with more in the way of sunshine. There'll still be a focus for those showers running down along eastern coast, so into northeastern England, and a few showers across the southwest. But through the day, they'll start fading away. So hopefully feeling a little bit more pleasant with lighter winds and more in the way of